This episode of the Better 2 podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is ViVi Tai. ViVi, she started out in the U.S. as a foreign exchange student from Vietnam. And, well, she came over here when she was in 11th grade. She got her GED, and she was working on her GED and going to college at the same time, which I know sounds interesting all in itself. However, she got a visa. After she got a job, she went from a student visa to getting a visa with her job. And then one day her job was gone, and she had to get out of the country very quickly. So she tells us about this journey and how it was a life lesson she needed. So enjoy the show. Hi, ViVi. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. How, Anna?
I'm doing good. You're in Canada, and we've already noticed this, guys. I'm going to say this. I'm going to preface this right ahead. We are having some issues technically with the call, and apparently she has some issues constantly with her internet. So we're going to make the best of it. So here we go. Anyway, so you live in Canada, as we say, but you didn't originally live there, and you went to school here in the United States.
I did.
But you immigrated to the United States to go to school. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an immigrant.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Vietnam. At the 17, I won a scholarship. It was like a prize for an exchange student to go and study in US. So that's how I started my journey living and studying in the US for 12 years, actually, before to Canada. So at first it was just like 1 year of exchange student. It's a high school. I was in 11th grade. And but when I went study high school in the US, I didn't technically go to, never really graduated from high school, but I obtained my GED. It's the general education degree to get into college. But I would have to do like a dual college where they allowed me to study high school GED. Like I was able to do like GED at the same time with taking college courses and use those courses and claim the credit for to apply for university later on. So I started in New Mexico. That was probably one of the best years of my life. It was fabulous, amazing, just because it was every so different outside of Vietnam. I was like very curious about different culture and different places, and because I love traveling, I remember like at that age I went to the US at 17 alone by myself. I actually had a layover in Korea, and I took a bus to downtown Seoul just to see Korea, and I almost missed my flight to the US.
Oh no.
I lost my package for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But that's how excited I was. Just get out of Vietnam and explore the world and see different kind of cultures and people. I wasn't very scared, more like excited to be in the US. So fast forward 12 years from high school and to obtain my chemical engineering degree at Texas. Then later I applied for a research assistant at MIT. Then I obtained my master program, medical engineering at Cornell University. After that, everything started to slowly falling apart. when I get my job at one of the biggest hospital in the US at the time, in Boston, because I didn't like the job, and it wasn't anything related to my field, to my, even though it was about clinical engineering, but it's more related to IT. It wasn't anything to do with medical. So I wasn't thrilled about it, and it was a stressful environment in the hospital. If you don't know already how stressful to work at the hospital is, so crazy, and because it's a gigantic hospital. Anyhow, the job very well, and I ended up losing that job. At the time, I was on H-1B visa. So at first I was a student, I was on student visa, but when you get a job, then you have to switch to H-1B visa. And what H-1B visa allows you to do is to only work for that employer within the country. If you lose a job or if you switch to a different, your visa would be invalid. The new employer would have to apply the job for you, to apply the visa for you again. So at time it was 2014, 2013, 2014. There was a lot around H-1B visa. They restricted the quota, which means there's less number of the visas are issued within the year. Only apply the visa in certain time of the year. So it was ridiculously difficult to H-1B visa. You would have to get very, very high quality profile on your resume or on your record. Like you really have to prove your status in order to get the H-1B visa. And I was lucky to have one with that. So it wasn't really possible. It wasn't like easy for me to apply for another job and get H-1B visa again. It was almost like a one-time thing. So because you stay in the country when you have the visa, when you lose your employment, you have to leave the country immediately. There wasn't any grace period. There wasn't any law around it. So there wasn't anything of state you have to leave, but because your visa is invalid when you lose your employment, so you technically have to leave immediately. So it's like a gray area that nobody really understands what to do.
Well, I mean, that's kind of insane because when you have leases on an apartment, you may own a home. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that, how do you all of a sudden within a blink of an eye have to up in your life and go, okay, I don't live here anymore. Where am I going to go?
Yeah. After 12 years. So that was the reason why I was stressed and depressed during that time. It was probably the lowest time of my life, because everything that I was built up to for, and I lost everything in a moment. And so it was very devastating, and I had to leave the country and went back home to Vietnam, and to face my biggest fear, is the fear of failure, seeing my family, because in Asian culture, it's like if you get to go study, you bring honor to your family, but going home with nothing feels like you disappoint. You know, because my mom actually have high expectation of me as well. So it was at that time that I had a lot of questions about my life, whether everything that I had done, everything that I have tried, the higher degrees, higher status, better job, very prestige position in Boston, But when all of that crashed down and washed away, like, the castle of sand washed away, and being left with nothing. So I just asked myself, like, what's next? So what do I want to do from here now? Now that I'm back home, it's like starting back from the beginning of blank slate. So everything for 12 years for nothing, like all the time studying, and working in the US, like all of that doesn't have anything to live anymore now. So what do I want to do? Um, so at the time I came across the Alchemist. I don't know if you have heard or you have read about the book The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho.
It's behind me somewhere on that bookshelf.
Okay. It's one of the best book, my favorite book of all time. So when I read, really reignited my passion for traveling, because that's, as I mentioned earlier, like I was a kid going to the US. What I was most excited about is to discover and explore and see new places and see culture. But years, I lost touch of that. I lost touch of my passion, and because I lost who I was, living that materialistic life. I all I focused on was just gaining more status and getting a better position to please everyone or the bosses, just so I can stay in the US. Because if I didn't do that, like I would lose everything, and eventually I did. Um, at that blank slate, I didn't have anything to lose, and I got to uh, reimagine my passion for traveling. And what I learned, another the big lesson that I learned from that book, to learn and understand and know your heart and let it guide you. Um, it was a very foreign concept for me at the time to listen to your heart, because in my background, I was very much familiar with the logical and analytical way of making, because my background is an engineer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in Asian culture, we talk about logics all the time. But to give it a try, because I didn't have anything to lose. I was at the blank slate at that time, and I was just very desperate, fight myself again. Because I didn't understand the meaning of my life. Why did I have to be so miserable living days,
Yeah.
trying to find my freedom? But the more I was trying to get to that freedom, the more I felt restricted. It it wasn't right. Something was not right the way that I was doing. So I needed to try something new. Um, and that's how is when I was in Vietnam, I decided to make the most of my visa pass. I mean, my Vietnamese passport, even though I was not able to travel around the world, but I was able to travel with Asia. Um, so I decided just to follow that passion and just to kind of tell my vision of being a nomad. So I travel everywhere that I can in Asia, because in Vietnamese passport you can only travel to 48 countries.
Yeah.
Not like in or British passport, like you can go everywhere in the world. You can hop around without applying for a visa. So it wasn't really. The more that I traveled, the more I felt like I wanted um, to expand, and I wanted to explore more around the world. Um, but at the same time, I was also content, and I felt The more I was traveling, the more I found myself. That's why I decided to apply for immigration to Canada. Um, and I didn't see that I could obtain that vision in Vietnam. However, that time that I was back to Vietnam, it helped me to reconnect with my country that I disregard for over a decade because I was staying in the US for so long and I kind of lost touch with my my culture. So that time going back, it helped me to find the beauty and learn to love Asia. Eventually did have one of the best times in my life, travel around Southeast Asia, and it was fascinating. It was one of memorable times for me in traveling. That was in Asia, and so I was like looking back now, just so very thankful for that opportunity to have and like to kick me out of the US just so I can to my roots and eventually find my freedom here in Canada.
So why did you choose Canada? I mean, there's England, there's other places. Why did you choose Canada?
Well, it's my friend recommended me. He was like, "Why don't you just apply for immigration to
Fair
Canada?"
enough. Fair enough.
Because he has a friend that also applied for immigration to Canada. I think it was just synchronous, really, when that happened, and because Canadian culture and US is very similar. It's not much different. There's not going to be like shock for me again to immigrate somewhere else. And the upside benefit of that is because Canada values foreign workers in the US. They actually want these H-1B workers to come and immigrate to Canada because they lack of resources, human resources. You know, so I was qualified. I was kind of doubting that, but when I checked out the immigration in Canada, I realized, oh, I was qualified. It was very easy for me to be accepted, a lot easier than other country, and so that's the reason why I'm here. Even though immigration can take very long, up to several years, 4 or 5 years, but for me it took only 1.5 years because everything they was able to buy all my education and working experience a lot faster than other country. I also applied for New Zealand and Australia, but because education and working experience is not as relevant, you know. But in Canada, it's like if you have work in the US, like within North America, they count it as a point. You know, they give you extra point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot easier to immigrate to Canada for sure. And that's where it allows me to start van life. When I first immigrated to Canada, because I decided to try something else. I wanted to have a different lifestyle because I wanted to find my life purpose. I wanted to find myself. And when I was researching different lifestyles in Canada, is when life came across to me, and I thought it's the perfect. I love traveling, and this lifestyle afford me that, and because it cuts down living expenses. Well, depends on how much you travel, but if you stay localized, it's really cuts down your expenses. Then I don't have to work as much, and the rest of the time, I'm able to use it to find, to follow my hobbies, my interests, and I was hoping that along the way that would help me to find myself and my life purpose, because when my my life crashed out in the US, like that was my biggest question. Like, what's my existence, like what I'm meant to do in this life, because nothing was really fulfilling for me. Um, After 4 years, I think I have found that purpose, and that's the reason why I'm here sharing my story and write that in my book. And I'll be able to inspire others to find their freedom and to be in touch with themselves and get to know and eventually get to shine that part of themselves and contribute that authentic self to the world.
Okay. On that note, we're going to take a break for a minute and we'll be right back. And we're back. You had mentioned the Alchemist. Have you read the Celestine Prophecy?
The English prophecy? No, I haven't read that.
Celestine.
Celestine?
Celestine. It's a lot like The Alchemist.
No, I haven't read that. I've read several books from Paulo Coelho.
Oh, this isn't from him. This is somebody else. Reddenfield's his last name. But it's an interesting book, and it's a lot like the Alchemist. I read that first and then The Alchemist. That's why I was asking. So your book is called Living Through Alchemy. So did The Alchemist and your travels and everything inspire this?
It's actually not, but because I understand the spiritual alchemy, that's how I come to finally understand why the book was called The Alchemist and the journey of Santiago, that traveling from Spain to Egypt. The book surface is like a traveling story. But if you really dig deep down into the Alchemist book, there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of teachings that comes from occultism, from the mystery. And well, if you read the biography of Paulo Coelho, he's an occultist. He's occultism. So I think that the book may have been the influence from, has the spiritual influence from the occultism. So the book did inspire me to travel. However, it wasn't what inspired me to write my own.
Okay.
What inspired me to write the book was the show called on Gaia, that's called Mystery Teaching, from Teresa Bullard, because she was the one that helped me to connect the dots of my life and the patterns of my life. Only understand why I am on the alchemist journey. And because the way she explained it in spiritual context, using tarot images and wisdom to understand your own journey. So if you, the 22 major arcana of tarot, I don't know if you're familiar with tarot cards.
I read.
Okay. The 22 major of tarot is depicts a story of a hero's journey. And
some say it's a fool's journey. Some say it's a hero's journey. It depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. I think it stays the same, really, because the fool's is basically the beginning of everything of the. And so it's actually tied in very nicely with the concept of alchemy, because the hero going through the cycle is actually the 7 stages of alchemy. So from the card 0 to the prepping for the work, and from card A to card 22. So those are of alchemy that you're going through, and that explains the reason why what happened to me in the US that pushed me out of the country to get me on a different track, and get me on the alchemical journey. Because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't I wouldn't be a van lifer and I wouldn't have the spiritual journey and eventually write. So when I was writing my book, my first idea was just to focus on my van life, but I, through synchronicity again, that I stumbled upon that show somehow, and it explains everything. Like I felt like I was actually traveling through those major arcana. And I was like, this is the journey, and this is what people really need to know, and what's it's uh, like to actually travel through the stages of alchemy. That's the reason why I call the book "Living Through Alchemy," because I think that it happens everyone, because alchemy is a natural process, because it's not about change, it's all about transformation and transmit. And change is the only constant, right? Because the universe is always changing, always expanding, just like the season is always. So is we. And so this alchemical process is a natural process that exists within us. And we are aware of it or not, it will always happen. But when we have the awareness of it, and when we can actually utilize it, manifestation to accelerate our own soul evolution, instead of going against it and trying to cling back to our own way of living and our own paradigm. And that's the reason why I needed to leave the US to lifestyle, because it's all about achieving material status. But now it's like I feel more aligned and more authentic. Ever since I get on to that spiritual path, and then life is like a way, a tool that actually helped me to carry through this journey, this healing journey. So quite interesting.
You talk about the U.S. being very materialistic. I mean, we were raised to keep up with the Joneses, that you had to have status symbols. I mean, that is, and social media is very much a part of that now. Social media will tell you that you should have this, this mascara. I mean, there's an actual display at a department store now that said, as seen on TikTok. This mascara has been seen on TikTok. And it's like, so now because it's gone viral on social media, now it's going to be touted. And it's a weird phenomenon, because you saw it on TikTok, you better have it. It's, when I was a little girl, there was this thing called the pet rock. And I know this sounds crazy, but all it was a rock with two little eyes glued on it in a box. And these things would sell for like $5 or $6. And they were selling like hotcakes, but there was nothing important about it. It was just that everybody wanted one. So everybody tried to get one. And that's the thing about America. We try to keep up with the Joneses. And if you don't keep up with the Joneses, then you're made to feel bad, that you're not good enough and you're not deserving enough because you don't have everything that everybody else has. Yeah. And that's unfortunate.
For me, it's the influence of both America and also Asia as well, because I wanted to please my family. I want to meet my mom expectation. Asia is, I guess, almost like a tradition. I feel like every Asian family is like that.
But it's the same here. It's the same here in this country, because you are set up to believe that you go to school. Your parents are like, well, where are the grades? I want good grades. You ask them something like, so what do you want for your birthday? Oh, I want good grades. So their expectations have to be met, and then at a certain age, which I applaud you for, you have to come to the realization that I want my expectations to be met, not anybody else's, because if their expectations aren't making you happy, if what they want for you is not what you want, you're never going to find happiness, and you're never going to be in a peaceful place.
Another reason that I was status is because the way that the politics is set up for international worker as well. They said that you would have to have high degrees, you would have to have higher like skill works in order to obtain certain visa. And I was chasing the green card. So in order to get the green card, you would have to have that, the more prestige you are, the easier for you to obtain a green card. And the green card for me, it was freedom, because I wanted that freedom because I wanted to travel. So underneath it all, I didn't really want to, achieve American dream, like settle down in one place. And because I didn't want to get kicked out of the country, I wanted to have my own independence, and I didn't have to be dependent on any employers. So that's the reason why I wanted that green card. I think that it would allow me to go and pursue my own dreams. But of course, that didn't happen, because chasing it, the more I was being restricted, because I was afraid of losing my freedom.
Have you become a citizen in Canada now, or are you still on a visa?
No, I'm in the process of becoming a citizen now.
How does your family feel about you being a citizen of Canada?
They are thrilled about it. They didn't believe that I would make it to immigration to Canada, to be honest. Very worried. And they keep nudging me to get a job in Vietnam in my field, in engineering field. And I worked as a clinical research associate for a very big clinical research companies from the US, but they have a branch in Vietnam, so I was working for them. But it was very heartbreaking to see that they, even though I obtained my degrees, my education in the US, but I was paid as Vietnamese citizen, so it was equivalent to like $5 an hour.
Wow. I used to make that as a disc jockey back in the 90s.
So I obviously I wasn't satisfied with that, and I wasn't very happy with the job anyway. Regardless, the job environment, the working environment, it was really great. My co-workers was awesome. They was very supportive, very helpful. It was a very positive working environment, not like in the hospital, even though it was stressful. But yeah, I didn't find that to be fair. How? Because my passport is Vietnamese, so my pay rate is a lot, even though it's the same companies as in the US. And even if I have this degrees, Vietnamese passport, but if I work in the US, then my salary rates would be, of course, a lot different. So I wasn't satisfied with that.
But I'm going to say this: being a U.S. citizen, I worked at a company. The president of the company was here in Chicago, but the home office was in Pennsylvania. And because the home office was in Pennsylvania, they felt the need that they could pay us what people in Pennsylvania made, where the cost of living was higher here in Chicago, but that didn't matter. So they play that game here in this country, even without a Vietnamese passport. They play that game here across the board.
Well, even when I was in the US as an H-1B worker, my salary rate is in general lower than the standard rate, because they kind of deduct the amount of they have to pay for the H-1B visa, which was, I think, at the time $5,000. So they deduct that into your salary.
Wow.
So in general, we get paid actually lower typical American.
But what they'll tell you is, well, you should be happy. You're in America, you have a job, and
Yeah.
so you should be happy. And that's the thing about, I think, after the pandemic, employers can't just say, well, you should be happy you have a job, because a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm
Like,
done.
yeah. Yeah. I had so many strings attached in the US. That's why it's like it was hooking me everywhere. That's why I agree, Um, and I feel like I have to please every single one in order to make it work. And that was the reason why I didn't have any sense of who I was. And when I got out of that, I decided, no, I'm not going back to that lifestyle. It was very miserable, and I had chronic back pain because of that. And so I was like, I'm not gonna carry this rock anymore in my life, and I decided to let it down and let it go. And that's when I decided to live in a van. Um, I applied for jobs, whatever make me that like I was interested in. It's like I was just following my passion and see where it led me. So instead of like applying for it, I applied to work as a barista because I was interested in coffee, and I was thinking maybe I would have a coffee shop, and I would just try time and just be in solitude and just be really in touch with myself. And I started to do a lot of meditation during that as well. Like, so all this work is slowly, the healing process was slowly taking place because I didn't carry the stress anymore. And whenever I go into nature, it was like cleansing energy for my spirit somehow. And it's, in a way, it feels very addictive. And I was like, I don't want to be in this. I was like, yeah. So,
Go ahead.
so I started to write poem after about 1 year living in a van, and I actually surprised myself. I never thought of myself being a creative person, but slowly somehow that creativity came to me, and I think because of the healing process that was taking place at the time, because I was staying more into solitude and I didn't have this. And I don't know, it felt like taking back my right brain hemisphere.
Taking back your power. I mean, that's the thing. Most people will sit there and say, I'm not creative. But the fact of the matter is, there's different ways to be creative. You don't have to be creative by writing poetry or painting a picture. You can be creative in your thinking, in the way you look at the world. So you have to tap into your passion.
Exactly. So when I started just like to follow my passion, even though I didn't make any money at all, I actually a lot happier. I was like, I'm surviving. First of all, I wanted to survive because I wanted to go with my van life first. It took me almost half a year to start getting comfortable with van life, and I just expanded my travel, and I eventually get a better job that I was really happy with. That enough for me to survive in the van. But when everything started to get comfortable, I realized I wasn't completely happy. Everything was working well for me. I really enjoyed my van life. I enjoyed my jobs, my friends, everything in Vancouver for more than 2.5 years. Everything worked the way that I wanted it to be. But I didn't get to thrive. I didn't get to find my purpose. I still didn't understand what it was. But in a way, I was working for companies. So in that corporate life, how is it that much different than the US? Maybe I enjoyed it and I like it better, but is it really wanted. And when the pandemic happened, I decided I had to go again. I put myself on the blank slate and find a different direction. And that's how it led me into writing my book, because I started to realize how everything on the journey that I've been on was actually the healing journey. And I had to get out of that job in order to set myself on a different, because otherwise I would just kind of like one foot in and one foot out.
Right.
I know that some of they prefer to start a project while having a full-time job, but I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to focus. I felt like I was being yanked out of my comfort zone in order to be on a different path. And because I had a very strong intuition at the time, I started to practice Reiki. I feel a sense of like the pull, like I had to get out of it. I had to leave Vancouver and I had to like travel and go to the side of Canada. And a lot of synchronicity happened along the way, and that's how I come to understand my life purpose, and the spiritual concept of alchemy. So if I didn't do that, if I give my job in Vancouver, I don't think I would have gotten here.
And if you're happier now, then that's what's important, because a lot of times we do stuff that doesn't make us happy, and then we're kind of like, okay, what's next? So I get
it. Exactly. The tricky thing is like when you are at that comfortable spot, it's very hard to get out of it because everything is good, but it's not extraordinary. And often we settle for less because it's because going out of that comfort zone is scary, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether you're going to fail or you're going to succeed. So there's definitely a lot of fears that can arise.
Definitely.
I mean, for me, like traveling during pandemic was like another level.
Yeah, definitely. So are you going to write a second book, or was this just a one and done type deal for you?
I do have plan to have an. I actually have several plans because I'm also interested in coaching. When I was writing that book, it was actually for a program, but the idea for the coaching was completely different than what it would be now, because it was people who would be interested in living in a van. But my heart wasn't really set on it, to really understand my spiritual journey. That's what I really want to eventually coach people on, how to go with the stages of alchemy, because that's how we all grow as human, and that's how we can contribute to the world. And I think that when you get to the last stage of alchemy, you would, like, when you get to obtain on this lessons and these enlightenments, you would have to share with other people, because it's freedom for just one person if there's no freedom for the whole world. And that's my highest value, and that's my vision that I want to really, because for me as a Vietnamese citizen, like, to travel around the world, that wasn't really possible, and I had to really dig myself out of the hard work in order to be the first world citizen, in order to obtain the freedom. About the rest of the world, a lot of other people don't have that privilege, and to me, I think traveling is a way for you to gain experience and connect cultures, and that's how we can have the peace within the world when we get to be open-minded and get to understand each other, get to see how others live, and that's how we can decrease discrimination and decrease the level of hatred, because that was my experience when I travel. I get to see so many phenomenal places and amazing people that really changed my mind, my perspective, and my way of living, influence and impact on me. So I find that to be a very privilege, and I think it's my mission now to help the world to open up, and that starts first with helping people to find their freedom from. If you don't have that freedom within, you cannot have freedom in the external world as well. So the more we can help people to find freedom and peace, that's how we can build a better world. So my plans is to have definitely more books in the future, because the book that I recently published, it's not a complete journey of alchemy. I didn't put all the way to the end of the 7th stage of alchemy, because I was only at the conjunction stage. I didn't want to complete everything because it's still a very long process of going through these stages. But I can share whatever that I have already experienced, because majority of us are in the first and the second stage of alchemy. So because we are still very stuck in that 3D way of thinking, that materialistic paradigm. And so my next book, I would like to focus more on the whole journey, or the later journey of the alchemy, the half journey of the alchemy. So the conjunction stage is actually, it's called the Lesser Stone, and the Philosopher's Stone is all the way to the end of the 7th stage of alchemy. But however, because alchemy it can be very complex. You don't finish just one cycle. You just keep going and going and going, even reach the last stage. So it's not like your whole life is one stage, one circle alchemy, but these circles can be like can be as small as some challenges like a day, or a period of time in your life. So by understanding it, you can still in your life and have more awareness of where you are in the process right now, in order to find solutions and get perspective to get through of that stage and elevate yourself to the next level. So that's the reason why I didn't necessary for me to complete the whole journey and write a book, but I could write wherever I was at the time, share my journey, and I can still help people that's behind me.
Well, it's an interesting journey, interesting story. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to add?
I think the only thing that I would add is just encourage your listener or viewers to really first start to understand your heart or your passion, because your hearts really have the wisdom to know everything. And that's how I started. That's how it led me a different path, and eventually being where I am right now, because I took that leap of faith to listen to my heart and to follow it, to have the courage to follow that. So I think it's the biggest lessons for me, the first lesson, but also the biggest and the most important lessons for me, and I still use it even until now to always make decision by listening to my heart first. And that's where it led me to I need to learn for my highest good to find the teachers or the healing modalities as is best moment as well. So that's all that we need to start and stop letting your left brain run your whole life. But start really tuning to your heart.
Definitely. Well, ViVi, I thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Anna.
ViVi touched on an important lesson that a lot of guests have talked about following your passion, following your dreams. Sometimes we know we need to have a place, we need to have our security needs met, we need to have our safety goals met. And that means having a house or a roof over our head, at least, food, transportation if possible, something that gives us security. But sometimes when we have to have that security, we're taking a job that is soul sucking and we lose our passion, we lose our creativity. She didn't even know she was creative. I'm sure you picked up on that. And once she discovered a book that inspired her, she finally tapped into her creativity and she realized, hey, I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to follow my dreams. And sometimes when we get to that point where we have nothing to lose, we take that leap of faith. And that's why they call the tarot thing, well, some people call it the hero's journey. Others call it the fool's journey, because the very first card in tarot is the fool. And you're about to take a leap of faith. And where will you go and where will you land? No one knows. You're just beginning the journey. So on that note, this has been a long and interesting journey for me with all the podcasts, and I still am enjoying doing it. But if you have a question, comment, or would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com. That's Donna at better2podcast.com. You can catch up on all the shows at better2podcast.com. You can Google that even. And all our social media links are there as well. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can do that there. We will be making some changes as we go. And, this is part of season 5. And season 5, we are getting serious. We are getting more serious than we've ever been in following the passion of the show. So stick with us, and if you want to give us feedback of some of the changes we've made, let us know. Let us know if you think it's working. And if it's not, please tell us, because we want to improve the show. We want to give you quality and we want you to enjoy it. So until then, until the next episode, I guess, enjoy your day, evening, weekend, whenever. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. The Better 2 podcast is mixed, edited, and produced by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio Productions.